In the city, we gon' slide, bet I be there pronto.
Because everybody like, man, grocery prices going up, inflation, these politicians, it's some nonsense. But a recent New York Times article pointed out that while inflation and grocery prices are rising, corporations are also seeing record profit, which means that even though grocery prices are rising, it's not just so they could maintain and exist as a business. They're literally rising to the point where they're making more money now, you know what I'm saying, than ever before. Because record profit means we've making the most money that we've made in the past. So we see direct evidence of companies and corporations specifically using inflation as a way to just charge people for more shit. Because they making money. They're not hurting. Just so public service announcement. There is no corporation out there struggling right now. Corporation. I mean, we ain't talking small business. We talking about the big boys. They are straight. With that being said, how does that change how y'all view the inflation conversation in terms of blame, right? In terms of outrage? Where does your mind go with the inflation conversation when we now see that corporations that setting these prices are you know what I'm saying, again, making millions off of it?
First, I want to make sure it's clear that we can retweet everything being said about the food industry and the grocery industry and say that about gas, right? Exxon, Conoco, a bunch of other major hitters in the gas industry also reported record-breaking profits over this last year, which has caused Joe Biden to be like, yeah, we finna come tax y'all niggas. We about to start increasing the amount of taxation we have on y'all because y'all are just big kicking it over here. And this is where it becomes it's so violent to the average person. You ask the question, like, where do we look? Does it shape who we're pointing the blame at and who we're looking at? You know, truth comes out that Joe Biden is really not, fumbling the economy and messing up like a lot of the narration from conservatives and from Republicans will have us to believe. Instead, it is these businesses that are gouging. And because they have necessities, they have things that we have to function with, things like gasoline, things like food, they get to just say, you know what, the cost of production is going up. Everything is going up. Every price point from beginning to end of production, from farm to table or from, oil field to the gas pump is going up. And so we just got to raise our prices. And because they know people need it, they know people are not going to scrutinize that shit. They know that, if gas price is going up for me, it must be costing you more in gas to fill up that big 18-wheeler to get the stuff from Edison. So because they're relying on us not being able to press them, they're being able to go behind the curtain and do all types of weird shit to, justify how we live and what we're paying for. You know what I'm saying? So that's, I think, the shadiest part is the fingers don't go to the president. I think all of the fingers go back to the businesses and corporations because greed is MF. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Lee?
I want this. Can I see the video? This video.
Put it up. Yeah, I'm gonna share it.
Yeah, share my bitch, yo. Share this bitch, yo.
That's my girl, Katie Porter. I don't even ride for politicians, but she be on to something. When she pull out
thank you.
She be on to some shit.
Can you see
Katie Porter is I gotta put it. I'm gonna put it on the big screen, but first I'm gonna say this. Katie Porter is the only politician that I follow on TikTok.
Yeah. She be on it.
Hey, let me tell you something. Y'all finna see a beat down.
According to this chart, what is the biggest driver of inflation during the pandemic? The dark blue is the recent period.
It would be corporate profits.
And what is that percentage?
It is 54%, and that number does stay that level of high if you update that number to more recent numbers as well.
So over half of the increased prices people are paying are coming from increases in corporate profits.
Yes, the unit price index is reflected in corporate profits as opposed to other costs.
And how does that compare to historically to other periods of inflation or over other periods of economic time?
As reflected there and in other analysis, it is significantly higher in this recovery, 11.5%.
And what is it today?
53%.
So I want to make sure everyone in America understands this chart. What is a unit labor cost?
The cost, wages and associated worker costs.
So we could just wages. What is a non-labor input cost?
A variety of things, including maintenance and investments.
Okay, so I have to buy the stuff to make the widget. I have to have a factory. I have to keep the lights on. I have to hire someone to make the widget. That's this stuff. And this is what I add on top.
Yeah. So
Extravagant cost.
I think that when you ask me kind of what's going on here, stating it simply, we see that record profits is wage theft. And a lot of the frontline workers, a lot of the essential workers that was putting their lives on the line, bringing COVID back to their family members and their loved ones to make sure that everybody got bread and got milk and got water. We recognize those people was being screwed over. You feel me? Right. So a lot of times when we think about the way that we use propaganda of labor and class propaganda to be like unskilled work, unskilled work, unskilled work, a lot of the unskilled work has driven these record high profits. And I think that the video I just showed was giving you experts, I feel like, showing the exact breakdowns of what you was getting at, Toya. So they justified as being like, well, oil was going up. So if oil was going up, that means that everybody has to pay a little bit more. Well, we see from that chart that is the propaganda that is used to be able to drive up the light blue to make it where it is to run up the numbers, when in actuality a lot of the production cost hasn't gone up 500% or hasn't gone up this much percent. And just like it's crazy. So I know that the last thing is what groceries. I got some numbers right here. Flour has went up 45% in the past year. Chicken breast has went up 34% in the last year. Eggs have gone up 58% in the last year. Coffee has went up 30% in the last year. You know what I'm saying? This comes from the BLS source. You feel me? And then I seen today too that chicken, the price of turkeys for this Thanksgiving is up over 70% since last year.
Yo, and so this is the thing. What's frustrating about this is that, to be clear, the record profit aspect and like being in inflation being driven by profit aspect, it should be understood as simple as this. If companies were only raising prices to match inflation, profit would plateau. Because they're raising prices to be able to say, okay, this is covering inflation, and then this is so we could break even. Whatever that is.
Right.
What's happening is the fact that it's record profit is that they're increasing it to a point where they're making more money now than they've ever made before. Meaning that they're going beyond what's necessary for them to operate as a corporation. Beyond what's necessary just to meet profit margins, right? Beyond what's necessary to break even. Beyond what's necessary even just to like say, hey, we on the plus side, right? The second part of the second thing that's even more frustrating than that is the fact that we'll still hear the same arguments about politician and Joe Biden being responsible for groceries being high. Yeah. People will still dialogue about inflation from the perspective of, well, this person you voted for, it's their fault that inflation is high. Go ahead, Toya.
No, I mean, this is the political illiteracy that, you know, a lot of industries are banking on, right? Is that if we don't really have more complex and nuanced conversations about who shareholders are, who constituents are, what's happening in a lot of these conversations, then we always kind of point at the wrong people until it's too late. We always call our senators and our politicians not to tell them to hold these corporations more accountable, but just to say, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they getting their cuts, right, to protect these industries. They getting their cuts to make sure they protect the oil industry. They getting their cuts to make sure they protect the corn industry. They getting their cuts to make sure they protect the dairy industry. And that's because nobody's saying, y'all need to be holding me. How much are y'all taxing them? We're not having those conversations. We just mad at people. We just tweeting representatives and they like, oh, it's so crazy. Well, there's nothing we can do. Well, it's just kind of hard times. Well, the Fed could just raise the interest rates. It's kind of a very flippant response to it because nobody's pressing them to say, no, we need to be holding these companies, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I won't say nobody's doing those conversations. Let's talk about, you know, you know, boots on the ground doing the activism work to get in there, but those voices are often muffled or there's not enough people lining with them because, again, the level of political literacy that we have, just the well is not that deep. And so it's troubling because I feel like I've had the thought like, damn, man, what if these prices never go back down? Like I buy a lot of turkey meat to
I
make my
learned.
wrap. I'm a big wrap girl. I like turkey wraps. You know, I make those a lot at the crib. They're easy, high protein, whatever. And to look at a pound of turkey costs $10-12. Like, bruh, out of a pound, I can really only make for a decent amount of protein that I'm trying to intake like 2 or 3 wraps.
Terry
so-
says she preaching.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's great. Appreciate it, Tracy. Shout out to you.
Tracy. I said Tracy Perry. I said Terry. I read that.
Yeah.
P. Perry. Shout out to the bud.
But it just, that is when it becomes complex, and I become very nervous that because we don't know how the strings are being pulled and who's getting what cuts and how shit's really working and how much shit really costs, they're gonna be able to tell us anything, and they never gonna bring them prices back down because this is the new normal of how it works, because we don't know enough to challenge otherwise and say, nah, that shit needs to be at this price. You know, it's rough. I feel like we stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
what
incentive would they have to roll back those prices? But my bad, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like what y'all just heard sis do is illustrate the reason why conservatives spend so much money for bureaucracy, so much money with interest groups and lobbyists, making sure what is taught in the classrooms it continues to blame poor people for all the use in our economy. When you think about the way that cost of the concept of minimum wage and the concept of cost of living was set up originally, and the way that we think about it in 2022, we will literally justify people making minimum wage just so we can say you're supposed to not have a decent cost of living because you make minimum wage. That is literally a result to me of like education and making it where a lot of the big corporate elite people that pay a lot of money for influence and policies to get made. They're the reason why we don't want to hear nothing about you're mixing something about Marxist or socialism. They like, the devil, because they recognize that class consciousness gonna come at a cost of recognizing, like, damn, how come I thought it's a chart I seen. It said that since 2010, we see that Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all them, they went from being like 2 billion to 222 billion. Yeah. And we see the minimum wage that stayed 725.
That's a bit.
That's a bit. How do one
That's a bit.
I'm gonna find it before we get out for this real fast. I got it in my phone call. I know I'm doing a video about it.
Well, but we about to. This is the vibe check. So we want to get to the chop. You know what I'm saying? We want to make sure. Now, when you bring it out because we definitely.
It's right here. Elon Musk, 2012, 2 billion. 2022, 21 billion. Jeff Bezos' wealth in 2012, 18 billion. Jeff Bezos' wealth in 2022, 134 billion. Warren Buffett's wealth in 2012, 44 billion. Just Bell's wealth in 2012, $101 billion. The federal minimum wage in 2009, $7.25 an hour. The minimum wage in 2022, still $725 billion an hour.
And they mad about $15 an hour. We talking about recording record profit during inflation, but now $15 an hour is too much. Stop playing.
Wow.
Y'all know, like
2 billion to 221 billion.
Right. But he still have to borrow $1 billion just to buy Twitter. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother conversation.
Hey, shout out to Mango Slade though for pulling up for the political chop up. You know, our way we kind of get into some of these political topics. We really appreciate it. Right. We keep our finger on the pulse and make sure we checking in with y'all to see if y'all see what we see. You know what I'm saying?
If y'all see what we see, yes.